Most people feel busy all day. Not sometimes, not during difficult weeks, but almost every day. From the moment they wake up, their day already feels full. The calendar is filled with blocks of time. Meetings, reminders, scheduled calls, deadlines that arrive before the previous ones are finished. The inbox is never empty. Messages appear faster than they can be answered. Notifications continue even between tasks. There is movement all day, typing, responding, switching, reacting. Yet when the day ends, something feels missing. Progress feels unclear, not because the work was difficult, and not because the person lacked discipline or skill, but because modern work is no longer a single process. It is many processes happening at the same time. Today, work rarely moves in one direction. Instead, it pulls attention in multiple directions at once. Emails interrupt focused tasks. Meetings fragment long work sessions. Messages demand immediate responses, regardless of what was happening before. Work does not feel heavy because tasks are complex. It feels heavy because systems overlap. Different types of work compete for the same attention, without separation, without clear boundaries, and without recovery. As a result, effort increases throughout the day, but output does not rise at the same rate. This creates a constant sense of pressure, a feeling of being busy without a clear sense of progress. The problem is not effort. The problem is structure. Modern schedules were not designed to protect attention. They were designed to organize time. And those two things are not the same. The 9 to 5 schedule did not appear because it was efficient for people. It did not come from studies about focus. It did not come from research on human energy. And it was never designed around how the mind actually works. The system came from factories. During the Industrial Revolution, work became dependent on machines. Machines did not get tired. They did not need recovery. They produced the same output as long as they kept running. For factories to operate efficiently, everything had to be synchronized. Workers had to arrive at the same time. They had to leave at the same time. Breaks had to happen at the same time. Time became standardized. Hours were fixed. Shifts were measured. Output was calculated by presence, not by effectiveness. In this system, human labor was treated as a constant resource. If one worker slowed down, another could replace them. If someone was exhausted, the machine still required attention. The goal was not flexibility. The goal was predictability. Once this structure proved effective for factories, it began to spread. Factories turned into offices. Offices adopted the same schedules. Desks replaced machines, but the time logic stayed the same. Later, schools copied this structure as well. Students learned to sit still for fixed hours. Breaks were scheduled. Attention was trained to follow the clock, not natural energy. By the time people entered the workforce, the system already felt normal. 9 to 5 was no longer a design choice. It became an expectation. The structure survived not because it was ideal, but because it was simple to manage. Time was easy to measure. Presence was easy to track. And control was easier than adaptation. The system worked well for machines, but humans were never machines. Human energy does not operate in a straight line. It does not stay stable from morning to evening. It does not produce the same output hour after hour. Human energy works in cycles. Attention rises, focus peaks, then it declines. After that, recovery is required before high output can happen again. This is not a theory. It is how biological systems function. Cognitive performance depends on rhythm. Memory formation depends on rest. Sustained focus requires interruption. But the 9 to 5 system assumes the opposite. It assumes that 8 hours can be treated as equal. That focus can be maintained continuously. That effort produces proportional results over time. This assumption creates a structural mismatch. A linear time system is imposed on a cyclical biological organism. As the day progresses, energy naturally declines, but the schedule does not adjust. Meetings continue, deadlines remain fixed. Attention is expected to stay constant. The result is friction. More effort is required to produce the same level of output. Tasks take longer. Mistakes increase. Mental fatigue accumulates. This is why afternoons feel heavy. Not because the work suddenly became harder, but because the system demands peak performance during a low energy phase. The body adapts by compensating. Stimulation replaces recovery. Caffeine replaces rest. Pressure replaces alignment. Over time, this compensation becomes normal. Low energy feels like a personal failure instead of a predictable biological signal. But the problem is not individual weakness. The problem is that the system ignores cycles. When a system demands consistency from something that is naturally variable, strain is inevitable, not occasionally. Every single day. Over time, people do not break the system, they adapt to it. But this adaptation is not structural, it is compensatory. Instead of restoring energy, the system teaches people to override it. Fatigue is delayed, not resolved. Low focus is pushed through, not corrected. Stimulation replaces recovery. Caffeine becomes a tool for alignment. Notifications become artificial triggers. Urgency becomes a substitute for clarity. As a result, work continues even when energy is low. Output does not stop, but efficiency declines. More time is required to achieve the same result. Small tasks expand. Simple decisions become heavy. This creates a feedback loop. Low energy reduces output. Reduced output increases pressure. Pressure increases stimulation. Stimulation further disrupts recovery. The cycle reinforces itself. Weekends become recovery buffers. Sleep is postponed to specific windows. Rest is treated as an exception, not as a system requirement. Even when work moves home, the structure remains unchanged. The clock still defines value. Availability still signals productivity. Time spent is still mistaken for contribution. Remote work removes the commute, but not the schedule. Meetings still fragment attention. Messages still interrupt focus. Tasks still compete in the same time blocks. The system stays linear. Only the location changes. This is why modern work feels constantly active but rarely complete. Activity increases. Visibility increases. But meaningful progress becomes harder to measure. Not because people work less, but because the system rewards presence instead of output. When availability becomes the metric, attention becomes fragmented, and fragmented attention cannot produce deep results. The system remains busy. The person remains tired, and the gap between effort and outcome continues to grow. The core problem is not motivation, it is not discipline, and it is not effort. The problem is design. Modern work systems are built around time blocks, not around energy demands. They treat all hours as equal. They treat all tasks as similar. And they assume attention is always available. Functional systems work differently. They separate work by requirement. Some tasks demand deep focus. They require silence, continuity, and protection. Other tasks demand low focus. They can exist during energy decline. They tolerate interruption, and recovery is not optional. It is a structural component. In effective systems, these elements do not compete. They are separated. High-focus work is protected from communication. Execution is separated from planning. And recovery is scheduled, not postponed. This is not optimization. It is alignment. Alignment between how systems operate and how humans function. When tasks are grouped by demand, effort becomes predictable. When attention is protected, output increases without additional pressure. When recovery is built into the structure, fatigue stops accumulating. Even small structural changes matter. One protected focus window per day, clear boundaries around communication, fewer overlapping inputs. These are not habits. They are system adjustments. And systems always outperform willpower. Willpower depletes, attention fragments, energy fluctuates, but structure absorbs variability. When structure improves, performance stabilizes, not because people try harder, but because the system stops working against them. The goal is not to do more. The goal is to reduce friction between effort and outcome. Modern work feels difficult, not because people are incapable, and not because tasks are too complex. It feels difficult because the system itself is misaligned. Time is organized, but attention is not protected. Activity is measured, but output is not clearly defined. As long as effort is shaped by structures that ignore energy, friction will remain. Understanding this changes the perspective. The question is no longer how to work harder or how to stay motivated. The real question becomes, what systems are shaping effort every day? Observation is the first step, not forcing change, not optimizing behavior, simply noticing where effort increases and results do not. That awareness alone is already a structural shift.